We are live and we're back. Happy New Year, everybody. It's Peter and Phil, and we're here to talk some more X Files. We did not give up on the project here. What's up, Peter?
Not much, not much. I've finished this series, I think, back the end of November, so we're ready to power through.
Yeah, I know. Pete is usually like my call a friend when I forget everything. And problem is like he finished it so long ago, he might not remember anything either. And I finished it like beginning of January, so my memory's a bit hazy too. But we'll get through it. I got my little wiki page here, my cheat page. All I know, Peter, is that when I did my first rewatch some years ago, I was really surprised by how good season 8 was because I have said this a few times on the podcast. I was one of those people that dropped off, on first run when it's like, oh man, Mulder's gone. I'm not watching this shit. And I did it, like many people. And then many folks in the X Files groups and everything always talk about going back, and they're like, "Damn, season 8 is actually pretty strong." And I agree with them. I think it's a pretty strong season. Of course, we'll go in depth on what we feel about the season at the end of all the episodes being reviewed. But just my general thoughts is that I thought it was even stronger on the second rewatch. It's a shame, you know, season 9 didn't quite have the same gusto. But Pete's going to start us off, guys. We're going to do 7 episodes. Okay, so we should be done in 3 sessions here. We're going to do 7 episodes each. Um, and we're going to begin with the episode Within. This is moments before Scully splashes some water on Doggett there. But just a quick synopsis here. It's this episode aired on November 5th, 2000. Can you believe that? The X Files is a 90s and a 2000 show. Written by Chris Carter, directed by Kim Manners. This episode has an 8.4 rating on IMDb. And an FBI task force is organized to hunt for Mulder, who was abducted last season. But Scully suspects the task force leader, Special Agent John Doggett, okay, T-1000 himself, and instead chooses to search for her lost partner with Skinner. So, what do you think of this opening salvo here, Peter?
Yeah, it's a pretty strong opening to the season, especially, considering that the season 7 finale was written to be a possible series finale. So they Chris Carter was pretty smart. He left it open so that, okay, we didn't do anything permanent where like Mulder has to come back in the shower in a dream sequence or something, like we do have somewhere we can roll with that. So they did. Um, I didn't drop off after this. I was actually really curious to see what they were going to do with the show because Duchovny's involvement was kind of ambiguous. It was like, well, he might be in it, he might not be in it, and then like in the opening credits, it's like starring David Duchovny, which is a bit misleading, but whatever. Um, but it was known that Robert Patrick was going to be joining the cast, so there were a lot of things I was curious about back then. Rewatching it, it holds up pretty well. Basically, Mulder disappeared at the end of season 7, abducted by aliens. Skinner saw it, so it's actually no mystery what happened. But
Mm-hmm.
Kirsch is in charge of the FBI. He's a dick. He doesn't want to hear that. So he's organized this task force where basically Mulder is considered like a fugitive. They're not buying Skinner's story, so as far as Kirsch is concerned, he's just disappeared. And the guy in charge of this is the Robert Patrick character, John Doggett, whom we are introduced to in this lovely scene where he kind of approaches Scully under false pretenses, pretends to be like an old acquaintance of Mulder's, and he kind of starts doing his cop thing, picking her brain a bit. You believe the rumors. I heard he never really trusted you. Then she sees his badge and realizes who she is, and throws the water in his face for dramatic effect. To me, that was a bit fake. A lot of the Doggett Scully interactions in the early episodes felt a bit fake because it felt like they were trying to create this their own chemistry between them. Obviously, they weren't going to have that romantic chemistry, the sexual chemistry that Mulder and Scully had. So it was kind of trying to make them like adversarial from the get go. And I think it would have been better if they eased into it a bit more than just having that scene. Maybe have them gradually work towards it. Then, okay, we have one scene, boom, they don't like each other. But from that point on, the investigation basically Scully backs out of it. She and the lone gunman and Skinner, they know what happened, so they're going to follow the UFO. And the lone gunman by tapping into satellites, they figure the UFO is still there and it's basically doing pit stops. So they have to figure out where it's going to go next. And Scully realizes they're going after little Gibson Graves, the mind reading chess champion, who happens to be somewhere in the Southwest. So they go after him, but it gets leaked to Doggett that that's where they're going. So the rest of the FBI goes after them. And they get there in time to find Gibson being abducted from this school for deaf kids, where I guess he's hiding out, by none other than Mulder. Now, keep in mind that this episode is starring David Duchovny. We see him a lot in a really kinky situation in this chair with like this giant codpiece over his balls and needles in his face and lasers drilling on him and him screaming a lot. But that's about it until we get to this scene. And up to this point, he still has no dialogue. Doggett chases him to the edge of a cliff, pulls a gun on him, cliffhanger. Basically, with the exception of the fact that there is no Mulder Scully interaction, it's still classic X Files mythology episode. Almost. The other thing I would say that makes it not classic X Files mythology episode is that we're on to new mythology now. The old mythology is gone, so it's new mythology, no Mulder and Scully dynamic, but it's still got most of the elements of the formula that made for good mythology episodes.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was very nice. Had reminded me a lot of the opening of season, was it 6, after the movie, and they moved to LA, and it was kind of, it looked like they put a little extra spice with the camera work. Like I put here on my notes that it was like NYPD Blue style camera work. Very shaky cam, very active camera, um, and very bright colors and a lot of action. And season 6 grabbed my attention because of that. It's like they were trying to let people know, okay, the show's going in a different direction. It's not going to be that murky, filmed in the backwoods of Canada show that you guys been watching for 5 years. We're gonna still be the X Files, but a little bit more fast paced and bright and sunny in spots. And this did a good job of translating that we have a new chapter, pretty much of the X Files. And I agree with you that I think what turned a lot of people off, well, obviously, Mulder leaving and the whole Mulder and Scully dynamic is the heart of the show. But I remember I was one of the folks that was like, I just don't like Doggett, and I think it's because of how they introduced him. In the original, I'm talking about original run when this first came on, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like, oh, I gotta watch this asshole, for 40 minutes, and I think that's what turned a lot of viewers off. And it's a shame because later he becomes a hell of a partner and a hell of a friend to Scully,
Yeah.
but you got to deal with at least 5 or 6 episodes before she even starts to begin to warm up to him. And I don't know if folks were willing to go on that ride back in the day because of the big emotional attachment that people had to these two characters. But yeah, nice to see Kirsch back, although he's an asshole. Although later we find out that maybe he wasn't that much of an asshole. I didn't. I picked that up on this rewatch. Um, I like that Skinner takes a bit of the Mulder spot as far as being 100% behind Scully. Like he saw it. He
Yeah.
saw the alien. There's no gray area anymore with Skinner. He's 100% a believer, and Scully is, of course, still, within scientific reason, but still, she's way more on the other side of the aisle now. And you mentioned that alien abduction stuff. I loved it. It was so freaky, but it fucks with my head, man. All this alien stuff going on. But yeah, I dug it. 4 stars, nice, fresh, vibrant energy. Um, but then, yeah, we get right into episode 2, which is called Within. Okay, so, oh, I'm sorry, is it Without? This is Within. And then the next episode is called Without. Let me switch here on the screen. And there we get kind of a blurry picture there, but we get Mr. Skinner and Miss Scully. As the FBI task force continues to look for Mulder, they encounter an alien bounty hunter among them. Scully helps to oh my god. Scully helps to defeat the alien, and after the task force is called off, she's surprised to learn that John Doggett, the leader of the team, has been assigned to the X Files. This episode also has an 8.5 rating, pretty high rating there. Premiered on November 12th, and again, Chris Carter, Kim Manners working together. So we do find out that that Mulder that we saw wasn't really Mulder. We got some alien bounty hunter shape shifting going on, and it was cool. That right from the gate, Doggett starts to see weird shit. Okay,
Yeah.
and he's like, "What is going on?" And Scully's all in. And I did like the characterization, how they made it so that Doggett sees shit, and they kind of develop that a little bit longer as the season goes on and why he's not willing to believe some weird shit that he sees. But it's enough weird shit whereas he's willing to back Scully,
Yeah.
and kind of benefit of the doubt. And as I was watching, I was like, wherever Mulder is, he better be smiling because Scully is all in. She's like, she's really taking on the Mulder role. Um, and then we get the alien bounty hunter going in there again, trying to find the little boy. Um, Although I was thinking, look for a bloody hand, because I think one of
No,
Scully.
they did.
Oh, they
They
did, and it's
spotted it.
oh,
Yeah,
okay,
the little deaf girl, Gibson's friend, she spots it.
okay.
But
Um,
she's deaf and she's a little girl. She's not stupid. She runs the fuck away. She doesn't rat him
yeah,
out.
well, is that Prairie her name or Praise?
Oh, Gibson Praise is
Oh,
the
Gibson Praise.
kid.
What was the name of the little deaf girl? Thea.
Oh, I don't
That's
remember.
Thea Sprecher. I'm looking here. Um, And this alien bound man, it's so funny. Like like every show has its isms. Like in the X Files, it's the getting thrown across the room uh trope, and it's so funny when Scully.
Yeah,
Uh,
but the fucking stupidest thing about that scene is that, man, that's pregnancy over right there.
I
Like the fact that
know.
she doesn't lose her baby is, yeah, it's beyond a miracle. It's completely impossible.
No, you just accept it. It's like in Star Trek with Captain Kirk and his karate chops. It just you accept it for what it is. But it's funny how many people get thrown across the room in the X Files and just kind of they need a second and then they walk away. And then this episode had another classic X Files thing with the fucking is there a UFO coming? Is there a UFO coming? No, it's just helicopters. um, but anyway, um, what was it? You know, after all this stuff happens, I guess the bounty hunter they kind of get fucked because Scully's able to shoot him in the neck.
Yeah,
Because
no, she kills the bounty hunter, but of course, typical X Files fashion, he turns into a pile of steaming green goo, so there's no
yes,
evidence.
so nobody can see anything. So then, back at the FBI headquarters, Doggett reports his final findings to a skeptical Kirsch. When later visiting a recuperating Scully in the hospital, Doggett tells her he is now assigned to the X Files, uh, while Mulder is still held captive in a spaceship surrounded by various alien bounty hunters. Now, the thing here, I got a question, and maybe you picked up on this, or maybe some of our listeners, but why does Doggett get assigned to the X Files exactly? I didn't get.
Um, yeah, well, Skinner insinuates in the first part of the episode that Kirsch sees him as a professional rival. He sees that he's
Mm,
like this big star. He's like ex-marine, New York cop, detective, well-regarded agent, and he thinks maybe he's got his eye on the directorship. So that's why he gives him this shit job, because there's no winning for him. If he like plays it by the book, he's never going to find Mulder. And if he goes along with Scully and Skinner, he's going to sound ridiculous and sabotage his career. And in the end, he kind of, he doesn't go along with Scully and Skinner, but, he puts that he saw Mulder fall off a cliff and walk away. He puts that they had a suspect who attacked an FBI agent in a crowded room and they got away. So he puts a lot of unexplained stuff in there. And I
mm-hmm.
think like Kirsch is like, got you where I want you. Now I can bury you.
I got you. I got you. Yeah, and there's a little bit of rewriting some mythology here because she shoots the alien, but his blood doesn't kill everybody. Because usually, when the alien started bleeding before, it would poison everybody.
She gets a pretty bad goiter out of it, though. I think.
Well, it's the X Files, but I dug it. Two very good opening episodes, and then the next episode, good lord, I had fun with this one. This is one that scares the shit out of me, called Patience.
Mm.
Patience. Finally, a straight up scary vampire episode on the X Files. Investigating his first X Files case, Doggett travels with Scully to Idaho, where a married couple were brutally murdered by a man sized bat. Now, this episode only has a 7.8 on IMDb, but it was viewed by 13 million people. Actually, look at this. The beginning of the series actually got some pretty good ratings. 15 million watched without, and 15.8 watched within. So, it's pretty strong um, outing. I'll be curious here to see where they start losing the audience. Um, but again, written by Chris Carter. This one is directed by Chris Carter again. So, what do you think of this one? This is back our first monster of the week post Mulder.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I actually had to look up because I barely remember anything about it. Even when I see like the short description that it's about like a killer who's like a man and a bat, werebat or something like that. I remember pretty much nothing about this except for that it was kind of like it was Monster of the Week, but it was also kind of the X Files cops using like detective methodology to solve it. Because again, now we have the role reversal where Doggett's the skeptic, but he's a really good detective, and they do have bodies, so they're like, all right, we're just gonna approach this like any other murder mystery and see where the evidence takes us. And the evidence takes them to the fact that it is actually a bat. It's like the Scully does the autopsy and she finds like the victims. They have bite marks that aren't human. They have saliva that is only secreted by bats. So what it boils down to really is finding out the motive of the killer, and the motive of the killer has something to do with this woman who died like back in the 1950s. and everyone who had contact with the body of this woman, they're all the victims, and that's what the link is. But I couldn't tell you for the life of me what the bat's interest was in this woman and the people who had contact with. Like, that's how quickly I forgot. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I saw this. Um, I think it was, wasn't it like the woman's husband shot the bat creature's mate or something like that
It
back in
was
the
something
50s?
from like way back when. I remember it was like
Yeah, yeah. I think the bat creature's mate had been shot by like a hunter a long time ago, and this woman was his wife, and that was the connection. But at any rate, yeah, the bat
well, look,
creature
it
gets
says
its revenge.
it says in 1956, there were a group of hunters that killed a man-bat creature and brought it to the county morgue. The coroner said the creature was neither bat nor man. Then the coroner was killed a few days later, and soon after, a few more people were killed and disappeared. So they did shoot something. I think it's the same creature coming back for revenge. Um,
Yeah, but at
yeah.
any rate, very forgettable episode. I remember very little about it except for the revelation at the end. One interesting thing I did find out about this is that apparently Chris Carter based this on the Batman villain Man Bat, which is, it's kind of cool, but it looks like he didn't really give any more thought to the story than that. So yeah, forgettable, not very interesting. The only interesting part I thought really was the beginning when Scully comes in for like their first day of work before the cameras and finds he's actually getting into it. He's reading up on old X Files. In fact, by the time she's back to work, he says he's like read them all. So it's like, all right, good for you, Agent Doggett, getting throwing yourself into the job. I like that part of it. But the Bat story, yeah, didn't care for it.
Oh, I'm of the opposite opinion completely. I love this episode. I was looking forward to watching it again because, yeah, the story's kind of windy as far as the detective stuff and the motive and the bad. I think they killed a hunter killed him back in the day or thought he killed him, and then he's killing everybody that's got the scent of these hunters.
Yeah.
Um, you gotta, but I forget most things as soon as I watch them, so then I have to watch them again. But I dig this one, man, because what I was missing from the X Files in the last maybe 3, 4 seasons, it's just really scary monsters of the week. Like this bad creature really was just, it freaked me out. It reminded me when I was a kid, Bram Stoker's Dracula came out, and I somehow sneaked uh, around and was able to get it on pay-per-view or something. I don't know. But when he transforms into the Bat Creature, when he's in the jail, that scene freaked me the fuck out when I was like 14 or something. And then when I rewatched it a couple years ago, the Bram Stoker's, that scene still scares me. Something about the makeup and everything when he's in like full human bat mode. And this makeup department, whatever, I think they got inspired by that because it's very similar design as far as human bat. Um, and I think just the creature itself scared me. The fact that it was a dark story, not a lot of humor, and it was like, hey, this is what the X Files started out as just really scary. Doesn't have, not meta, not everything, not bigger than itself stories. And so no, I love it. This is a 4-star one for me. Probably one of my favorites of the season. So I dig it. I dig it. I dig it. Almost as much as the next episode. I think I like the next episode a tad bit more, but they're both very good back to back, kind of hardcore, old school X Files. In the next episode, guys, that I'm talking about, or we will be talking about, is Roadrunners. And this one premiered on November 26th, written by Vince Gilligan, directed by Rod Hardy, 8.3 on IMDb. In a small remote town in Utah, This weird shit happens out there. Scully is trapped by the town's residents, a religious cult that worships a parasitic creature inserted near its
Yes.
host's spine. And I joke that this is Scully gets a trill. And um, basically, this episode does have a moral, I think. I guess I'm going to start at the end before we get to the beginning. But the moral of it is Scully still, even though she thanked Doggett for having her back in the last episode, she's still not 100%, on Team Doggett. So she decides to go out investigating this X Files on her own. And kind of the moral of it in the end is, hey, there's a reason you have a partner. So while Scully is out there on her own, kind of, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and everything that came after story of you run out of gas in a weird town, and even the guy at the gas station is in on it. You don't know it. The sheriff's in on it. Everybody's in on it. And they're willing to help. She walks into town, and they're willing to help her, um, get her shit together. Maybe wait till.
Yeah. No, she's not. She doesn't get stranded there by accident, though. She's
Oh,
investigating a disappearance.
no, no, yeah, she
Just
does
not,
go out there investigating, yeah, but
yeah.
she's what do you call it? But they get her, out there. What happens? Does she run out of gas, or does the guy fill her? I
I
think he fills her car up with like water or
Yeah, they
something.
sabotage her. I think.
Yeah, yeah, they sabotage her. Um, so she needs to get stuck out there. Yeah, no, but she definitely was out there on a case, um,
Yeah.
which is lucky because that's one way that they're kind of able to find her in the end. But basically, guys, I'm not going to tell the whole episode. But what I like about it, again, it just goes back to old school fucked up X Files, because that was a big criticism that a lot of people had and probably still have of season 6, but probably even more season 7. Is just the show stopped being scary. It became it became too meta. Like it was too big for its own good, and it wasn't able to give you those old school scares of seasons 1, 2, and 3. And this one is rough, man, because in the end, there's like this little slug creature called, was it Jacob? Maybe I forgot the name of the name of the creature that
I
they.
don't remember it having a name.
I thought it did, but in either case, um, they need to get it out of this one guy from the beginning of the episode. This guy that got on the bus, and he's like, "You got on the wrong bus, motherfucker." Um, and because they believe that this creature is the reincarnation of Christ, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, and in order, and it needs to survive inside of a host, for as long as it needs to, in order to kind of keep blessing them. It's kind of like the Trill from Star Trek. It needs to live inside of a body, a host, but it's deadly. Once it's inside you, it just starts eating up your nervous system and everything. And yeah, Scully starts to see that, hey, this is not a good place to be, but it's too little too late. They capture her, and it's one of the best scenes in X-Files history when she's strapped out to the bed, and they cut a hole in her back, in her lower back, and they stick this thing in her. Oh my god, so good! It's so good. It makes my heart stop. Luckily, Doggett does show up, and then it's like the second best scene in X Files history, where he's got to cut this motherfucking thing out of
Yeah.
her body. Oh my god, it's so good. And he throws the worm on the floor and shoots it dead. And all the townspeople just kind of, they resign after that. They just give up because the little slug creature. I thought it had a name. I'm looking here on the wiki, but I can't find its name. But in either case, classic, classic, classic episode. I put this up against anything from any of the early seasons and onward. Um, glycoprotein mucus. Wait. Let me see if I. Um, okay, and then in the end, of course, Scully apologizing to Doggett for leaving him out. I thought that was very humbling or humble of her and a great character development, kind of showing that,
Yeah.
hey, this guy may not believe in aliens and this and that and the third, but the motherfucker's got your back, bitch. He's going to be there for you regardless of what may or, paranormal or non paranormal thing is trying to kill you. So you always need a partner. So great episode. For me, I know you didn't like the last one, but for me, it's a nice 1-2 shot. These two Monster of the Weeks.
Okay. Yeah, it's one of the more memorable Monster of the Weeks from the first third of the season for sure. Um, it was pretty gross. Apparently, I was reading that a lot of the crew members were like on the verge of losing their lunch shooting
Yeah.
some of those scenes of like the worm going like it is really kind of creepy, and the fact that they kind of have this, all the townspeople have this Stepford vibe of like this hive mentality, and that it's tied to religion. Like I think this worm is the second coming. And when you think about the shit that like religious people believe, it's like, well, I mean, why not? People believe all kinds of crazy shit. Who's to say that like a parasitic brain eating slug can't be the second coming? So hey, not the craziest thing people believe. But yeah, it really was. It was an issue of an episode about trust because Scully goes off on her own. She's still flying solo. She doesn't make any effort to let Doggett know what's going on, and his feelings are kind of hurt at the end. He's kind of
Yeah.
like we're partners, man. And this is the career cop in Doggett coming out, where you see like a trait of his that becomes real enduring. Like whatever relationship we have, like part of the job as partners is trust. And you're my partner. I trust you completely, even though you threw water in my face and you're mean to me, and you got to give it back. So that's really what it boiled down to.
Yeah, no, I definitely a cool episode. Definitely a cool episode. So, guys, we're gonna be moving right along, and now we got Doggett with children. Oh, but maybe
Hmm.
this child is a demon child because you can't have nice kids on the X Files. Although this
Yeah.
one is one that I don't remember much from, but let's see if you can jog my memory, Peter. And this has a 7.9 rating on IMDb, written by David Amen, Richard Compton, premiered on December 3rd, 2000. And it says, after a boy who disappeared 10 years ago, I do remember this, suddenly returns without
Yeah.
explanation, and he hasn't aged. The case echoes back to certain incidents in Doggett's past, but Scullion discovered that the
Mhm.
boy hasn't aged. Dang. Billy Underwood is the little
Yes.
boy's name.
Yes. So yeah, this again, it kind of threatens because we've done the demon child thing a few times in the X Files now. Kind of threatened to go there, but it was actually a little different. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
as Phil said at the start, like at the beginning, this kid goes missing at a fair, and then it flashes like 10 years into the future. His parents find him at their house, but he hasn't aged. So this has X Files written all over it. And again, Doggett's approach is Doggett has like an innate ability we notice in these early episodes to just kind of like, I'm just going to ignore the supernatural bit. Like this is how he deals with the supernatural aspect of the X Files, is he just goes right into cop mode. He sees it, but because he's just such a skeptic, he just puts that aside and tries to focus on the detective work. So his fixation on this case is like, well, let's just find out what happened to this kid. Doesn't give a shit that the kid hasn't aged in 10 years, which is really weird. Is like, let's just find out who abducted him. And it turns out this is a personal thing for Doggett, and this, I believe, this is the first we hear of it. but his own son was actually abducted and killed. And unfortunately, like they don't really touch on that enough in this episode, I think, because all we really see, I think it gets mentioned once, and we see a picture of him looking at his son, and that's it. So it's like, okay, there's something up with this guy. Like he's got his own Samantha thing going on, but it doesn't have anything to do with aliens. But
Mhm.
this is an aspect of the character that should have been a little more developed up to this point in time in the show, and it hasn't. But yeah, that gets mentioned and then it's forgotten. What does take a focal point, basically, we have two stories going on: Doggett's investigation and what's going on at the home of this kid, because this kid isn't right, man. He doesn't talk. There's a scene where he's standing over his brother's bed with a bloody knife, and the knife has a symbol that he drew while being interrogated. In the meantime, Doggett's got himself a suspect who's like this teenager. I forget how he becomes a suspect, but Doggett's convinced that this guy did it. At any rate, I forget how he becomes a suspect, but Doggett's convinced. Yeah. So at any rate, the whole thing culminates in this suspect actually confesses, but Doggett realizes he's not telling the truth. And I can't remember the relationship. I think the guy was like his stepfather, the suspect's stepfather. And he actually kidnapped both these kids. And the
Mhm.
twist ending is the suspect leads them not only to the killer, but the skull of the boy who reappeared, who in fact was dead this whole time.
I know.
So
Twisty.
yeah, I mean, I liked it, like, but not crazy liked it, mostly because the whole "oh my god, he was dead" the end at the whole time at the end thing was a bit too derivative for me. It was like too Sixth Sense-ish.
Yeah, it's like
And
reverse Sixth Sense.
yes, yes. And I wasn't crazy about how they gave these hints about Doggett, but didn't follow up on it. But not a bad
Yeah.
episode. I did like, the whole like revenge from beyond the grave type thing. Not that it's never been done before in the X Files, but that was decent. It kept you guessing because it definitely took you down this path of where you thought it's like, evil child, demon child story again. And it turned out to be something quite different. So, good episode, but not without quite a few flaws.
Yeah, for me, it was just a solid one, but 3.5. I gave a lot of high ratings at the beginning here. But I did like Dockett's interaction with the children. So it kind of softens him up a little bit, gives us a
Not
little.
really. Not really. Do you remember his interrogation technique in this scene? The kid won't talk, so he takes away his backpack and tells him you won't give it back until he talks. And the parents freak out. Scully freaks out.
I forgot about that. But by the end, though, you can see that he really cares about like what's going on with these kids. Well, with this kid in particular, and it connects to the loss of his son, which we get into later in the season. Because I knew that there was a thing with his son, and I'm waiting and I'm waiting, I'm waiting. When they start talking about this, because I know it was a big plot point. As far as Doggett's life was concerned. And it took them a while to get into that. I think they should have done that a little bit sooner. But in any case, but I'm with you. Like, strong episode. Sixth Sense premiered, I think, the year before, 99, I think. So definitely you can feel that they were like, hey, let's do our own version of Sixth Sense, the mini version. And it was all right. And I do love how, and it kind of shows that there's this barrier between the two, how Scully and Doggett, even when they're yelling at each other, they call themselves Agent, like Agent Doggett
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
Agent.
It's actually I forget what episode, but I remember like the first time they actually call each other by their names. It's like Wow, that took a long time.
Yes, but it's always Agent Scully, Agent Doggett. But even when they're angry, they don't do it. But yeah, I'm with you. I pretty much give it the same review as you, where it's solid. Could have been a little bit better, kind of derivative ending, but again, I think sometimes you need a big shakeup like that on a TV show in order for it to get its life back. I think the same thing happened with with The Walking Dead. For me, it was a dead show. Season 6, 7, 8, whatever, all the way leading up to that war between Negan and Rick. And then when they did the time jump, and then Rick that went missing, it just felt like, oh, oof. I mean, it helped that they got a new showrunner, but at the same time, shows try to do that all the time. They're not always successful at it. Long running shows, and
Yeah.
but many times it can work, and it can give the show some new life, and it forces the writers, because I think, Pete, and you've written a lot in your life and worked with and read a lot in your life. I think sometimes a writer can just get complacent. It's so easy to write for Mulder and Scully. It's so, and it's tough to, like, what situations can we put these two characters in that we haven't seen before? Oh, now all of a sudden we got a new guy who's totally different, completely the opposite of Mulder, for an old writer, man, that's been doing the same thing. I mean, that must have been a breath of fresh air to be able to, like, explore something completely different, and it shows. At least in season 8, it definitely shows a lot. So much so that when Mulder comes back, I think the quality goes down a little bit. But anyway, next episode here. Speaking of callbacks, a little callback to what's that? The Shining here, Red Rum. We got an episode that premiered on December 10th, 2000 to 13.2 million viewers. And it's a teleplay by Stephen Medea, or Maida. And then the story is by him and this guy named Daniel Arkin, and directed by Peter Marco, 8.5 rating. An old friend of John Doggett and formerly successful lawyer finds himself in jail for the murder of his wife, an incident he has no memory of. As he starts to live days in reverse, he realizes that he has been granted a second chance. Now, I dug this episode, but at the same time, I thought it had a few problems. Uh, One is just the time loop. Like, what's going on with this time loop? It's not really explained. What I like about the X Files is that even when something is in the paranormal, but there's like an explanation, like there's rules. I think that I got pissed off at that episode Closure because of that, because it's like all of a sudden now we have aliens, not aliens. What were they? Angels or something? I forgot. So the bullshit that they said. So I can't get into them as much. There's that episode. Was it season 7, Pete? There was an episode where you got the time loop where
Yeah, with the bank.
up, you know, and it's weird. It's weird to say that because the X Files is a sci-fi show, but it's like sci-fi, but not for me. It's like it's still really grounded, more in reality than anything. So when you get an episode where this guy's just living his day backwards, I'm like, where does that come from, and how does it fit within the greater X Files episode? But anyway, what we do have though, which is kind of cool, is a meeting again with Joe Morton, who was in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. He was a scientist trying to kill. Was he responsible for Skynet or something? And
Yeah,
then
he was the guy who created Skynet, I believe.
yeah, and then T-1000 goes there and tries to kill him, and Arnie has to help him. So that's kind of cool. There's a few kind of cool Terminator 2 callbacks. In fact, there's a few kind of Easter eggs throughout season 8. They kind of joke about it a little bit. Again, X Files, come on, can't you just show me like a black dude who wasn't in, just a regular black dude? That's the one thing pisses me off with the X Files. It's always when they have black characters, They're always in some type of weird situation like this, like a black man in prison. But okay. Um, so yeah, it's a Memento style, like that movie Memento, Nolan Ryan. It's a backward story. I did like to see Danny Trejo in there because who doesn't like to see him in anything?
Yeah,
Um, uh, we get to see a little bit of Doggett's house, which is cool. So it's nice that in these couple episodes here, they're trying to flesh out Doggett a little bit more, and you get a sense of he's a just guy, not just a just cop. He's just a good dude. And this guy here is having his second chance because he was accused of murdering his wife, and the case seems pretty solid against him until you get all the way back. What does it go back, like 4 days, 5 days? I forgot. Um, to the point where you see how the crime really happened, and he's given a second chance to save his family. But basically, that's it. Okay, and then he gets that second chance, and then life goes on in what do you call it? In regular order. So it's for me a solid episode. It's like the last one. It's not like a classic X Files episode, but kind of but good. Okay, and Memento also came out. Let me see here because they just
Memento
borrowed.
was 2002 actually.
Well, here on IMDb it says 2000.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it came out 2000.
Okay.
September 4th, 2001 was when it was released for streaming. But it came. But in any case, it's kind of weird that two episodes back to back kind of borrowed very heavily from two very popular movies of the time. But whatever. That's it. That's my good episode. Not a classic, but definitely watchable. Strong opening season so far. What you got with
Oh, right.
Red Rum?
Yeah. Yeah. Red Rum. I really liked it actually. It was. I guess I didn't even make the connection to Memento, but very much like that. Memento is one of my favorite movies of the last 20 years or so, and I do like the mystery of the reverse storytelling, the way it kept you guessing. Because I don't know, I actually I can't say I fully bought it, but as the evidence mounts up, I was like, that would be some twist if it actually turned out the dude was really guilty. Because you
Hmm.
think as he goes further and further back and
Oh, I lost you.
exonerates the guy, and the more he goes back, the more it becomes he becomes full of self doubt. Actually, like, holy shit, maybe I really did it. I would say like the one thing about this episode is it didn't really need Doggett or Scully in it. Like the whole episode could have just been this guy's story. So it was kind of out of place for the X Files in that the X Files characters didn't really contribute much to the episode at all. It was very much a standalone, like Black Mirror, Twilight Zone type thing.
Hmm. Yeah. And the
But yeah,
twist at the end is that he does actually end up going to jail, but because he suppressed evidence. So the guy was trying to kill him. It was like the brother of this guy he sent up to jail.
that's right. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, and so there was that poetic justice to it. Like he had to go back in order to do the right thing, and then face the consequences. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a nice little morality play. It just kind of felt really disconnected from the X Files.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it, and for me, because of just the time travel elements and like time looping and everything, um, yeah, I guess Black Mirror would be a good example of like it would have fit well there, and you didn't really need Doggett or Scully in the episode. They didn't actually do much in the episode at all. So, but again, good lord, guys, and as Pete is talking, I'm reading here. in the wiki page, I always have the comment section, and almost all the comments are like, "God damn, this is a good season. God damn, this is a really good season, underrated season." Um, and it is. So if you have not watched season 8, and there are folks out there who have not seen season 8 of the X Files, they stop at 7, or even earlier. Some folks watch it, guys. You will have a good time with it. And then we have last episode for tonight is Via Negativa. Okay, it premiered on December 17th at 12.37 million viewers, so a little drop there. Million people drop in the ratings. Directed by Tony Warmby and written by Frank Sputnitz, has a 7.9 rating. While Scully takes time off to deal with the early stages of her pregnancy, Doggett and Skinner attempt to avert the mysterious murder spree of a religious cult leader who kills his victims in their sleep. Weird episode, but go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not really a Doggett solo episode. This is kind of like where the X-Files is starting to become bigger than Mulder and Scully. That's something that really happened a lot over seasons 8 and 9. They were kind of forced to do that, but I mean, by season 9, like the X Files is like this. It's like a super team, It's a long way from just Mulder and Scully in the basement. So yeah, no Scully in this one. It's mostly a Doggett solo episode because the episode is all about him. But yeah, Kirsch and Skinner are in on it as well. The lone gunmen are there, so we get the first meeting between Doggett and the lone gunman. Not their first appearance in the season, but I think this is like the first time where Doggett actually meets them. And it's not a mythology episode either. It's not a mythology episode. It's not a comedy episode. I think actually they just tried to work them in there to sell the spin-off series because I think that came out the same year. But yeah, it's basically about a cult. The start of the episode, these FBI agents are staking out a cult, and one of the agents falls asleep. And when he wakes up, the doors open. They go in, find the room full of dead bodies, and the agents get killed. So Scully can investigate because she's dealing with a pregnancy. So Skinner and Doggett go in on this. And throughout it, people connected to this cult die under like Nightmare on Elm Street type situations. It's like they're not pursued by Freddy Krueger, but they have bad dreams, and if they die in their dreams, they die for real. Like there's this one dude who's like connected to the cult. He winds up in jail, and he has a dream where he's eaten by rats, and they find him. He does appear to have been eaten by rats. So the theory that actually Skinner, of all people, he doesn't come up with the theory, but he finds out that this cult leader used this like hallucinogenic drug to bring himself closer to God. And what the lone gunmen figure out is that this plant has given them the ability to enter into people's dreams and killing them in their dreams. And as Doggett gets closer to the case, he becomes the target. And this is Doggett's first personal experience with really scary shit. Like this guy starts fucking with his head. There's this one scene where he like finds a third eye in the middle of his forehead. Another one where he's like being commanded to kill Scully. So he's having like some really fucked up dreams that are like really super surreal. And it actually ends with him about to kill Scully in his dream, and he turns the axe on himself, which is like another act of a partner's loyalty there. And he thinks actually that he he was saved by Scully waking him from his dream, but it turns out that the cult leader actually died. So it's kind of left ambiguous. Did she save him? What would Doggett have done? Would he have died for real in his dream if he had killed himself to save Scully? So there's a lot of questions there. Overall, my thoughts on the episode are pretty negative, though. It was a lot of psychedelic imagery and a lot of spiritual mumbo jumbo, but not really held together by that much. Not much point to the episode except to really give Doggett some time in the spotlight and to directly expose him to some bad mojo without having anyone else to fall back on. So, I mean, there were redeeming qualities about it, but I wasn't crazy about this one. I was like, man, this is fucking weird ass shit, and not necessarily in a good way.
Yeah, but I feel you. For whatever reason, though, I liked it a lot. Although I thought the ending was a little bit of a letdown, but I kind of there was the one psychedelic episode that you liked a lot, and I didn't, where Mulder and Scully got stuck in a mushroom or something on the ground.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah,
Yeah, that one that was trippy in a way that I didn't really dig that much. But this one, I'm reading a comment here, and they say if you have trouble falling asleep, put this one on, and then put the one where Scully wrote and directed right after you fall
yeah,
asleep. But they're similar in that way, where they're just exploration of these characters and their personal growth. That episode more Scully's spiritual growth, I guess. Whereas here it's Mulder's paranormal growth. You know, he's got to deal with the fact that some weird shit's out there. And I think both work. Although this ending here, with her just waking him up at the end was kind of Dill's ex Scully in a way. But I love the imagery. I love that third eye stuff that's happening. I love seeing Doggett's acting muscles stretched, man. I mean, he went through all the emotions in this shit, and it was so cool to see him scared shitless because
yeah.
he's such a stoic character. You just don't imagine Doggett getting scared by anything. Um, and so I thought it was great. The backwards voice, which is very Twin Peaks ish. Um, just a lot of cool elements, but it's weird. It's one of those episodes that I put a 4-star rating here for, but I can't remember much of as far as like you reminded me a lot of the finer plot points. But I think I was just digging the whole image, all the imageries, and all the weird shit that was going on with Doggett and seeing that this character can carry this episode on his own. By the way, our buddy here, Travelmatic, is that his name? Let me see here. Good dude here. Yeah, Travelmatic had left a comment. He's wondering about Carnival. We'll be back on Monday, guys. Brazil Expat Journal. If you want to find out a little bit about our life in Brazil, we took a very long break, or I did at least. We'll be talking about some of our expectations, some things that will go down in Brazil in 2022. Some good, some bad, some insane. So we'll definitely talk about Carnival and if it's going to happen, if it's not going to happen. But now back to this. Yeah, I dug it. 7 strong episodes, though. I can't really complain about any of them. They weren't any that were like dreadfully boring. Like, oh my God, can't wait for this episode to be over. Some better than others, but pretty much good start to season 8. Guys, we will be back next week talking 7 more episodes, including one about a little dude that goes up people's assholes. So tune in for that. And that's it, Pete. I'm done. Are you done?
Yeah, let's just do our quick skipper watch.
Oh,
and then I'm
shit.
off
It's
to
been
bed.
so long. I forgot completely about it. All right. So here we go. The first skipper watch of 2022 for season 7. Within, I say definitely watch.
Oh yeah, I'll watch for sure.
1, just because you'll be lost the whole season if you don't watch it. But 2, it's
Yeah,
a goddamn good episode. And Without, for me, is also a watch.
of course.
Strong
Yes.
Impatience.
Uh, definitely miss.
Yeah, and I say definitely watch. Scared the shit out of me every time I've seen it. So I dig this one. And then Roadrunners.
Yeah, I was kind of sitting on the fence with this one, but after discussing it a bit, I'll say watch. Not really enthusiastically, but watch.
Oh, this is such a gory classic. I say watch it. You'll dig it. Invocation. Six sense.
Uh, I like this episode, but I'm gonna say skip.
I'd say watch it. Might as well if you're on a roll. Not great, but really solid. Get a little bit of Doggett. Red Rum.
Also liked more than actually the previous two, but I'm gonna say skip because it has so little to do with the X Files that you will miss nothing by missing this.
I'm
Good
with
episode, but skip.
Yeah, I'm with Peter. It's like it's the most inconsequential episode, but it's a good one. I mean, if you just run into it, you're not gonna be displeased. But I would say skip. And then last episode we did tonight, Via Negativa.
Skip for me as well.
Yeah, I'd say watch, and not just because I like the episode, but I think it's an important one as far as character development for Doggett and kind of seeing how slowly, he doesn't become a gung ho believer, but he does end up just backing Scully up. Like, okay, I'm willing to go out on a limb. Open mind.
Yeah,
That's the thing that just kept coming up a lot, Pete, in this first 7 episodes, where Scully just kept saying, "Think outside the box. Think, open mind." Um, and there was a lot of this. She would say, if Mulder was here, what would he think? So it's kind of calling back to Mulder. And it kind of made Doggett feel a little bit insecure at times because he would have to say, "Look, I'm not
yeah,
Mulder. So I can't think outside the box like that." So these episodes, I think the one with the little kid that was really dead and this one, I think are important as far as getting the Doggett arc to the point where it was by the end of season 9. So that's it, y'all. I hope you enjoyed it. I saw a few of you commented on Facebook. Thanks for commenting. A lot of folks said, "I love season 8 and I love Doggett, love Doggett." Yeah, Doggett's cool. Very cool character. And it's a shame he wasn't able to get into season 10 and 11. Okie dokie. That's it. And
all right.
Sister 19 online. We're about to sign off. Looks like her name's in Hebrew. I don't know. But thanks for tuning in, Sister 19. Hope that's not a porn account. Bye.
Bye bye.